Good evening and welcome. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. This is News First, where the people come first. I'm Mariam Gunavijaya. We start off with the look at the headlines.
Opposition, including the SJB and the NPP, boycotts parliament. Another death at a fuel queue. Prime Minister and ministers perform yoga. Can instigators at fuel queues be controlled?
වාසනාවට සමහර වෙලාවට එහෙම අසාධාරණ කම්වල යෙදෙන අයව අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්නව ඒව පාලනය කරන්න ගියාම ඔවුන් වටා තවත් පිරිස් එකතු වෙලා අපේ ආරක්ෂකාංශවලටම විරෝධය දක්වනවා. Petition against Dhammika Pereira rejected. A writ application filed by Johnston Fernando to prevent his arrest also rejected. Charit Asalanka scores a century in the fourth ODI against Australia.
Rises once more. With his teammates appreciate it.
In your lead story tonight, opposition parties say they will boycott parliamentary sittings for a week. They say that the government has failed to address the people's problems.
At a time when people are suffering, they are looting through gas imports. They're extorting in dollars. We thank India for giving us a credit line, but a group of crooks are trying to loot the money that has been given to import medicines. We will reveal their identity in the future. They do this from their mansions.
Crooksla කොට්ටාසය අපි කියන්නම් ඉස්සරහට කවුද කියලා. Crooksla කොට්ටාසයක් කරන්නේ. මන්දිරවල ඉඳගෙන කරන්නේ. කරන්න කිව්ව ගත්තේ නැහැ. කට ගහගෙන ඉන්නවලු. තමුනාසයට කොන්දක් තියනවා නම් බහිනවක මහපාරට. දීවරයට
Please remain silent. If you have a backbone, then take to the streets. Fishermen are unable to go to sea. Farmers are helpless. There is no gas, but they loot money when importing gas. They have shamelessly cancelled a tender awarded to import gas. This is a corrupt government that is looting dollars. The 22 million people in this country are helpless. When we are trying to represent their voice in parliament, the slaves are opposing that. Isn't the government sensitive to the people's problems? Don't they sympathize with the parents and children? The Samagi Jana Balawege and its Samagi Jana Alliance and all progressive groups have made a decision. This is a government that does not understand the people's problems, tells lies and deceives the people. We won't be a part of their effort to spread lies. We will boycott parliamentary sittings this week.
The president, who is responsible to the people, is acting as a puppet without fulfilling his duties to the people. The people asked him to go home. That is a justifiable request. The people showed their anger towards the president. But the president appointed a new prime minister and formed a new government, similar to the 52-day coup that took place. He made Ranil Wickremesinghe the prime minister. It's been over a month. He is the spokesperson for the crisis rather than solving it. The government must introduce a program to address the crisis. Fuel stocks can last for 1 day. Food is there for 2 weeks. We will have to consume 2 meals daily after that. The spokesman for the crisis says they will have to print billions of rupees. Do the people have faith in this government, the president or the prime minister? They must table a short-term roadmap to parliament highlighting how they propose to overcome this crisis. Otherwise, there is no point of holding any debate on this anymore. We as the opposition have decided to boycott the parliamentary sessions for a week.
This is not an all-party government. This consists of some random parliamentarians. An all-party government must be formed properly. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party members who have now accepted ministerial positions and a few members of Lanza's group misguided Gotabaya Rajapaksa again and appointed a useless person as the Prime Minister. What can they do with the ministerial positions if they can't provide fertilizer to farmers? What is the purpose of an educational ministerial portfolio if they can't run schools? What is the response they have? Why do we need a Minister of Power and Energy if there is no adequate supply? As all 225 parliamentarians will be beaten outside, this is the only place that we have to speak what we want. We are not willing to go on a 1-week break.
මේ දේ හරි කියන්න තියෙන තැන මෙතන අතහැරලා සතියක් නිවාඩු ගන්න අපේ අදහසක් නෑ. මම තමුන්නාන්සට කියන්නේ මම ගියෙත් නෑ.
Neither me or my representative met Gotabaya Rajapaksa and asked him to appoint Ranil Wickremesinghe as Prime Minister. We always tried to appoint a Prime Minister from the Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna. When we asked for nominations, 4 names were nominated. Don't provoke me.
එක නමක් නම් කරන්න ගියාම නම් මාතරන් නම් කළා. මගේ කට උස ගන්න එපා විමල් විරංශ මහත්තයා. නලින් පොඩාන්දුට ඇමතිකම දුන්නේ මෙයා කිව්වා මට එපා ඒක නලින්ට දෙන්න කියලා. ඒකයි එහෙම උනේ. ඔය සියලු දෙනාත් එක්ක ජනාධිපතිතුමාත් එක්ක සාකච්ඡා කරුවේ ඔබතුමාලගේ නියෝජිතයා ටිරාන්දලස එමෙතුමා. එතුමාත් ඇමතිකමක් ගත්තා. හරි එතන ඒ නිසා ඔය නිකන් කතා කියන්න එපා බොරුවට.
Members of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya and Jatika Jana Balawegaya left the parliamentary chamber after they announced they will boycott sittings. Debates between parliamentarians ran into this afternoon as well.
රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ අග්‍රාමාත්‍ය ධූරයට පත් කළ යුතුයි කියලා අපි කිසිම වෙලාවක ගිහිල්ලා ඒ යෝජනාව ඉදිරිපත් කරේ නැtei කියන එක මම ඉතාමත් වගකීමෙන් කියන්නට කැමතියි. මේ ජනාධිපති ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමා අපට කියපු දේ එහෙමනම් එතුමා බොරු කියනවා ඇති. ඒක ගිහිල්ලා එතුමාගෙන් අහන්න. ගෝඨාභය රාජපක්ෂ ජනාධිපතිතුමාගෙන් ඇහුවා. එතුමා ඉතාමත් පැහැදිලිව ඔබතුමා කොයි වෙලාවකවත් කිව්වේ නැහැ. ඔබතුමා කියපු එක නමක් තියෙනවා කිව්වා අග්‍රාමාත්‍ය ධූරයට ඒ තමයි ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ නම් කර නිමල් සිරිපාල සිල්වා ඇමතිතුමා අගමැති කරන්න කියලා. ඔබතුමාට මම මෙන්න මේක කියන්න පුළුවන්ද? නිමල් සිරිපාල සිල්වා මැතිතුමා කිසිදු අවස්ථාවක රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහතාගේ නම යෝජනා නොකළේ අග්‍රාමාත්‍ය තනතුරට කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්ද? නෑ එතුමා දැන් උත්තර දෙන්න ඉන්න. ආන් ඉන්නකෝ. මම ඉන්න වෙලාවක කියලා නෑ. ඔබතුමා ඇමතිකම ගත්තේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයෙන් ගිය විධිමත් යෝජනාවක් අනුවද නැත්නම් ඔබතුමාට වෙනම ආම්බෙත් එකක්ද? ඒ ගැන වෙනම පොඩක් ඉන්න. මේ අපේ පක්ෂෙත් කඩාකප්පල් කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන මේ වගේ කණ්ඩායම් ඉන්නවා. මේගොල්ල පහුගිය කාලෙම කරේ ඕක. පක්ෂ කඩුවා ආණ්ඩු කැඩුවා. රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමාට
Who proposed to appoint Ranil Wickremesinghe to the post of Prime Minister? Was it the government or President Gotabaya Rajapaksa? How did he become Prime Minister without a seat in Parliament? It would be good if we knew that.
ආසනයක්වත් නැතුව මේ රටේ අගමැති උනේ කියලා අපිට ඒක පොඩ්ඩක් දැනගන්න පුළුවන් නම් හොඳයි.
The question raised by former President Maithripala Sirisena did not receive a response during today's parliamentary session.
Now, parliamentary sessions this week will be held only today and tomorrow. This is due to the ongoing fuel crisis in the country. Leader of the House, Dinesh Gunawardena, says the decision was made at a party leaders' meeting today. Meanwhile, as parliamentary sessions were underway today, some people were in queues and another group was performing yoga in Colombo. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and the Ministers of Energy, Education and Irrigation were seen performing yoga today.
Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was not present for today's parliamentary session, was seen attending a yoga event in Colombo to mark the International Day for Yoga.
There are various energy knots. 7 anti-clockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right hand region. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out. Breathe in. Little practice with the breathing. So you inhale slowly and now slowly. Stretch up. Close your right nostril to left.
The event was held at Independence Square, Colombo, and was organized by the Indian High Commission.
Honorable Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs.
Another person had died in a queue today. This is the 9th death that had occurred in a queue for essentials in Sri Lanka.
A 42-year-old father of 2 had died upon returning after staying in queue for fuel for 2.5 hours.
ඉස්පිරිතාලේ ඔක්සිජන් නැහැ කිව්වලු ඇම්බුලන්ස් එකක් නැහැ කිව්වලු ඕගොල්ලෝ ට්‍රීවිල් එකෙන් බවරන්ට ගෙනියන්න කිව්වලු ඒ ගෙනියනකොට මගදී මේ ට්‍රීවිල් එක හිටලා තියෙනවා ඊට පස්සේ වෙන ට්‍රීවිල් එක තමයි හොරනට ගෙනිච්චේ ඒ ගෙනියනකොට පුතා නැති වෙලා
The cause of the man's death is yet to be determined. This is the 9th death to be recorded by Newsfirst relating to the queues for fuel and gas.
Now, many irregularities have been taking place at filling stations across the country. Now, many incidents have been reported where people linked to politicians or underworld members are obtaining fuel by force.
At a filling station in Wayangoda, people have been in queue from the 16th of this month. But many of those in line were not able to buy fuel as a group tried to forcefully obtain fuel from a bowser that arrived last night.
හෙටත් ගහනවා ඒක 600 දැන් අද අපි 24කට 24ක ගහගන්න වාහන මල්ලි 24 නේ බාන්න යායේ ඩීසල් ටැංකියට හේකවත් ගහන්න නෑ අපි ආයේ බාන්න වාහන දායි කියලා අපේ දෙල්ලි ගහන්නකො ඇවිල්ලා මේකේ එන්නේ චන්ඩි ඉන්නවා හරිද එතන අපේ දෙල්ලි අපිට ගියේ දෙල්ලි තමයි මුන් ඇවිල්ලා ඔක්කොම අනුන්ට කුප්පේ වැඩකොල්ල අනුන්ට කුල්ල ජනා විදින මං කොල්ල කාලා දැන් ඔය මේ අපි දැන් මේ දෙතන දුක් විඳින්නේ පොලිසියට කිව්වත් ඒක කිසිම එකක් නෑ බැරල් වලට ඕන තරම් ගහනවා එක පොම්ප් එකකින් දැන් ඊයේ ආපු එකෙන් බැරල් වලට ගැහුවා වාහන පොලිමේ හිටපු වාහන 7යි ගහගන්න පුළුවන් වුණා. 6600ක් ආව තෙල් බවුසර් එකේ 7 වෙනි වාහනේට තෙල් ගහගන්න බැරුව ගියා. ඉතින් තෙල් වෙච්ච වලට වෙච්ච දෙයක්වත් නැහැ.
A tense situation arose when an urban councillor intervened as some people tried to obtain fuel without being in queue in Jaila.
පිටිපස්ස ඉන්න කට්ටිය එතකොට එහෙම නීතියක් නැහැ නේ. ඉතින් එහෙම දාන්න බෑනේ. මේ කට්ටිය ගංගම ගමේ කොල්ලෙක් එකක් ගහගන්න. අන්න ඒ අරෝගේ එක දිගට ගහන්නේ නේ. ගමමේ නීතියක් දාන්න. මල්ලි තරයි මල්ල වීඩියෝ දාන්න බලන්න. ඉතින් අය වීඩියෝ කරන්නේ.
Some people are forcefully buying fuel. There can be instances where people from other areas try to forcefully pump fuel at various filling stations. We have sent police and army officers to these places. They will take steps to control that. The police or army officer does not know who is doing it. If they are informed about that, they will take the necessary action.
Journalists raised questions on this matter during today's cabinet media briefing.
There are reports suggesting that underworld members are there. Security officers have been given the task of acting against that. But when police try to arrest someone or control the situation, the people raise objection against these officers. We need the support of the people to control this.
The fuel crisis continues to burden the people. Many people are still in queues for fuel across the country. This crisis is also threatening public transport services.
A Lanka IOC filling station in Kaluthara that began selling fuel at 10 last night was closed at 3 this morning after running out of stocks. As people in queue insisted that it was not the case, police officers examined the situation at filling stations today. At the Demerits filling station, a heated dispute ended in a brawl this morning. Our correspondent reported that scuffles broke out at this filling station on multiple occasions. This was a result of selling fuel to people from other areas and those who were not in queue. The army was brought in to bring the situation under control. Teachers and officers who travelled to mark OL exam papers have been badly affected as the fuel crisis has affected transport services. This was the situation at the Anuradhapura town today.
දැන් පැනල් එකේ පේපර් ටික එහෙම තියෙනවා. ඒතර ඔක්කොම ආද ඇවිල්ලා මෙතන දැන් පෝලිං 10කට එක්කෙනෙක් යවන්නේ මෙතන. පැයක් දුන්නා නම් පේපර් මාකින් කරන අය ඔක්කොම ගිහිල්ලා අපෝ පේපර් බලන්න. දැන් වෙලාව කීයද? අපි 9ට ආවේ මෙතන. ඒතර අද දවසම පෝලිමේ අපි පැනල් එකේ පේපර් වල මොනවා හරි වුණත් අපි වගකීම ගන්න.
The decision to allocate a separate queue for public offices at a filling station in Mathura sparked anger and protests among the people.
paper marking යන අයට තව පැයකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා කරන්න තිබිච්ච වැඩ මේ පැයක් ප්‍රමාද කරා. සේවකයන්ම රාජ්‍ය සේවයකට බෙල්ල කපා ගන්න වැඩක් කරන්න මෙතන. පොලිසිය මිනිහ දන්නේ නැහැ මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ කියලා ආමියකේ කෙනා ඩියුටියට ඇවිල්ලා ඉන්නව වෙන මෙලෝ දෙයක් දන්නේ නැහැ.
In Kaluthara, police had to intervene after police rejected claims that a filling station had run out of stocks. At a filling station in Pilimathalawa, security officers intervened to sell fuel to some who were not in queue for humanitarian reasons.
ගොඩමල් යන්නේ අම්මා පැහැලිය වලට
දවස් ගණන් පෝලිං වල දවස් 14කින් දෙල්ල ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. මේක තමයි අපිට මේ සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙන කරුමේ. ඒක නිසා තව දුරටත් අපි මේක ඉවසගෙන ඉන්න ඕන නෑ කියන එක තමයි මගේ අදහස.
In Digana, people began a protest as they had not received fuel for a week.
කණ්ඩ බොණ්ඩ දෙන්න බෑ, හාල් ටික දෙන්න බෑ. මේ කිසිම දෙයක් දෙන්න බැරි ආණ්ඩුව.
Fuel was not available at filling stations in Colombo as well. The All Ceylon Private Bus Owners Association says fuel is not being sold to private buses from government-run bus depots.
Only a few among the 105 Sri Lanka transport board depots sell diesel to us. We don't receive fuel from the filling station in our areas. They chase us away and ask us to buy fuel from the SLTB bus depots. If diesel is not sold to private buses in the coming days, we will step away from our services completely and teach a lesson to the minister and the government.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa published a gazette yesterday declaring electricity supply, medical treatment and fuel distribution as essential services. When will Sri Lanka's fuel crisis be solved? The shortage of petrol has worsened, although diesel is being distributed to a certain extent. Sri Lanka is facing a shortage of about 1,900 metric tons of petrol as the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has limited supply. Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminals Limited said it distributed 1,500 metric tons of petrol today. According to the Ministry of Power and Energy, the daily demand for petrol is about 3,400 metric tons. On Sunday, the Minister of Power and Energy had said Sri Lanka has about 4,000 metric tons of octane 92 petrol. He said about 350 metric tons of petrol is produced additionally at the Sapagaskanda Refinery daily. This would mean that 1,050 metric tons of petrol was produced at the refinery in the last 3 days. Sri Lanka would then have about 5,050 metric tons of petrol in total. The Ministry of Power and Energy has said it had supplied 2,600 metric tons of petrol to the market daily from the 19th. This will mean that 7,800 metric tons had been released to the market.
A petrol cargo is to reach Sri Lanka on the 23rd. A diesel cargo is to arrive on the 24th. Once the stock arrive, the congestion at filling stations will be much less. But I wouldn't say the problem will be solved completely. One thing is clear now. Some are hoarding fuel. After we announced that we can't repay our debt, no one is willing to supply fuel under the previous system. Earlier, we could import fuel on a 180-day or 90-day credit. Now we can't do that. We must pay for the fuel shipments. Although we pay in rupees, we don't have dollars to convert the rupees. This is a technical issue and not an issue that can be solved politically. If the government fails to resolve the issues surrounding foreign debt payments, then we will face a shortage of fuel. That will happen if our letters of credit are recognized overseas.
ලිපියක් පිළිගත්තේ නැත්නම් තෙල් නැත්තරම නැති වෙනවා. මේ ඛනිජ තෙල් අර්බුදයට විකල්පයක් හැටියට යම්කිසි සලාක ක්‍රමයක් ඇති කරන්න බැරිද කියලා. ඛනිජ තෙල් අමාත්‍යතුමා කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට
The Energy Minister clarified this to the cabinet. He is taking steps to see that fuel is sold according to the vehicle number and that fuel will be sold only for essential services on Fridays. He said this is the most difficult stage. He said a stable long-term plan will be prepared for fuel and gas imports.
ගෑස් වලට ස්ථිර වැඩපිළිවෙලක් සකස් කරගෙන යන බව කිව්වා.
23 වෙනිදා පෙට්‍රල් නැවක් එනකොට මිලියන.
They said a petrol cargo will arrive on the 23rd and that 42.5 million has been allocated to open a letter of credit from the People's Bank. But there is an issue because the shipment can't even leave as Sri Lanka has not been able to name a foreign bank as a guarantee. Until that issue is resolved, it is uncertain whether the shipment will arrive on the 23rd. Orders have not been placed for petrol, diesel and crude oil shipments. A furnace oil shipment has been at sea for 56 days. Demerits charges exceeded $1.1 million for that.
තියෙනවා ඩොලර් ලක්ෂ දසලක්ෂ 18,000 ඉක්මවනවා ප්‍රමාද ගාස්තු
නිශ්චිත දිනයක් නැහැ බොරතෙල් ගේන්න 23.
There is no definite date. They are reducing the quantity of refining crude oil to buy time until fuel stocks arrive on the 23rd and 24th. The refinery can't handle that. We will have to halt operations at the refinery by the 25th. That is a serious situation. Those in power are not willing to understand this. They want to obtain commissions through these deals.
මේක සැලකිලිට ගන්න තරමට පාලකයට උමනාවක් නැහැ. පාලකයට ඕනකම තියෙන්නේ මේවෙන් කොමිස් ගහන්න විතරයි.
The Energy Minister says fuel shipment will arrive on the 23rd. We don't know whether that ship has sunk or is travelling through the Bermuda Triangle. Regardless of which government is appointed, even with the votes of 6.9 million people, there is no point in having them if they don't have a solution. We are pleading with them to resign.
රට බින්දුවටම වැටිලා මේ වාගේ බින්දුවටම වැටිච්ච රටක් කරන්න මොකටද ආණ්ඩුවක් තෙල් නැව්වෙනවා කියනවා අරව එනවා කියනවා නමුත්
They say fuel shipments and other shipments are arriving, but nothing seems to have arrived. We are bankrupt. The Prime Minister also says things are difficult. Do we need a Prime Minister to tell us that? Are we suffering for what we did?
අපි කරපු දේවල්ද මේ අපි මාර දුකක් විඳින්නේ මේක.
බෙහෙත් ටික තෙල් ටික ගෑස් ටික මේ ප්‍රශ්න.
With the shortage of medicine, fuel and gas aggravating, those in power have not been able to even think of a solution. These rulers who were appointed with the votes of 6.9 million people are playing with the lives of 22 million people. The decisions that they make are hilarious. If a father says he earns 2,000 rupees and uses 1,500 rupees to drink and then says 500 rupees is not enough to feed the family, will his children believe him? That is what has happened to the country. While it has been accepted that those in power have looted most of the country's income, we are wondering how they can stand before the people and ask to trust them. There seems to be no fuel or gas shipment in sight. What sort of a joke is this? Vehicles have stopped on the roads. It is a joke to ask the people to trust those in power.
පේන මානික නෑ මොකක්ද මේ විහිළුව වාහන නවත්තපු තැන්වල මොකක්ද මේ විහිළුව මේ පාලකයෝ ගැන විශ්වාස කරන්න කියනවා නම් ඒක තමයි මේ රටේ අපි දැකපු ලොකුම විහිළුව.
From one crisis to another, a solution does not seem to be in sight for the gas crisis that has affected Sri Lanka. There were long queues near gas stores today as well.
A shipment carrying 3,900 metric tons of gas reached Sri Lanka on the 8th of this month. But the shipment was distributed only for essential services, leaving people in queues. Literal gas and Laughs gas, which are the only gas suppliers, have not been able to meet the demand.
While people continue to stay in queue for gas cylinders, officials are planning to import gas by paying for each shipment instead of awarding long-term contracts. Questions are now being raised on why the government had not chosen the lowest bidder to supply gas.
Recently, I saw lawyer Nagananda Kodituakku had released a video in which he claimed that the government is trying to import gas at $129 a ton, although it could have been imported at $96. He said that all 225 parliamentarians had earned commissions off this deal. We haven't looted money. All 225 parliamentarians have not worked hard to buy gas. We have not struck deals. It is the cabinet that has struck these deals. The cabinet and the Prime Minister must clarify why they are buying gas at $129 when it can be done at $95. But on social media, accusations are being leveled at all 225 parliamentarians. Everyone is not connected to these corrupt deals. Those in the cabinet must clarify this. We are helpless because we don't have answers to this. This is a massive crime. We tell the Prime Minister to respond to this. Otherwise, we will have to face the music at the hands of the people.
News First with the people.
Why did police officers try to enter the Frontline Socialist Party's headquarters? We've got details coming up after this short commercial break.
මොකද මහත්තයා මේ නෑ මේ ගෙදර සිංක් එකේ අයි මහත්තයා ස්ලෝන් නෙවෙයිද දැම්මේ හදිස්සියට බාලා පයිප්පයක් දැම්මේ නැද්ද මුදලාලි ඊයේ පෙරේදා කඩේ රිපෙයාර් කරන්න ගෙනාපු ගම් චුට්ටක් මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න වලට හොඳම විසඳුම ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටක් හැබැයි ඉක්මනින් දාගන්න ස්ලෝන් පයිප්පයක්
ස්ලෝන් ගම් චුට්ටා හැම ගෙදරකම සිටිය යුතු ජලනල කාර්මිකයා දැන් රඟම ග්‍රොසරියෙන් මිලදී ගන්න
Eva Trusted Confidence now has a fresh new feel. Introducing Eva Heavy Flow Wings with an extended length of 280 millimeters to provide extra protection on days you need it most. And for the first time in Sri Lanka, an antibacterial layer minimizing microbial growth, it controls odor and promotes freshness, while the extra length multiplies absorption. Available in both cotton feel wings and Drytex wings variants. Eva, leading with confidence.
Come back to the news. A group of police officers attempted to enter the Frontline Socialist Party headquarters at Melder Place in Nugegoda today. The officers said they had to execute a court order.
A group of police officers had arrived at the Frontline Socialist Party office today in vehicles belonging to the Nugegoda Divisional Crime Investigation Bureau and the Velavatta Police.
ඇත්තටම මේගොල්ලෝ ගන්න. ඔක ලොකු උදව්වක් එතකොට අපිට. ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා ඒගොල්ලෝ මහ බැංකුවරු ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා. සුදුලුණු වංචාව කරපු අය දන්නවා. සීනි බදු වංචාව කරපු අය දන්නවා. ඔක්කොම දන්නවනේ. මං කියන්නේ මේ ඔක්කොම අපිට සහයෝගය දුන්නා නම් හරි ඒක ඇත්තේ පසු විස දන්නේ නැත්තරම. ඔව් බය වුණා හරි. හරි. අපි කියන්නේ ඔය වගේ ආරක්ෂාවක් දෙන්න මයික් කරන ඔක්කොම සාමාන්‍ය මිනිස්සුන්ට ටෙල් බෝලින් වල මැරෙන ඝාතන වලට ඔය වගේ ආරක්ෂාව දෙන්න.
මේක ලියාපදිංචි දේශපාලන පක්ෂක කාර්යාලයක්.
This is the office of a registered political party. When entering such premises, if you have any questions, it can be done. There are many official ways to do this. If a person who has a warrant issued on him is to be arrested, at least say who it is. The police is breaking into these offices without even telling any of this. These are things that go beyond the law enforcement process and create fear in the society. We are telling the Gota Ranil Alliance not to do politics like this.
අපි ගෝඨා රනිල් අශුද්ධ සන්දානයට කියනවා මේ විදිහට දේශපාලන කරන්න ලෑස්ති වෙන්න එපා.
Professor Ratnajeevan Hool, a former member of the Election Commission, says that 2019 presidential candidate Gotabaya Rajapaksa never produced a certificate to claim that his US citizenship was revoked. In a sworn affidavit, he had informed the Supreme Court in this regard, responding to an application filed by Nagananda Kodituakku.
Nagananda Kodituakwa had filed an application with the Supreme Court seeking a writ of mandamus, citing that it was not possible to conduct a free and fair presidential election due to the conduct of the then election commissioner. The petition is to be taken up again on the 30th of this month. Professor Ratnajeevan Hool was named as a respondent in the application, and in a second affidavit, he noted that as per the presidential election law and the constitution, every candidate must submit a statement to claim that he is suitable to be a candidate. Professor Ratnajeevan Hool was silenced earlier with allegations claiming that he is involved with the LTTE. In the affidavit, he says he had to stay silent as they had to go with the decision of the majority in the commission, but that was a serious scam. An affidavit was not presented. He never presented a certificate saying he cancelled his dual citizenship. That is a serious fault. That is required. Gotabaya Rajapaksa said there is no issue in his citizenship and that it does not bar him from taking part in the presidential election. But Mahinda Deshapriya said nothing could be done and the matter must be taken up in court. You were deceived. This is his affidavit. If anyone raised concerns back then to Ratnajeevan Hool and Mahinda Deshapriya, Gotabaya Rajapaksa's candidacy would have been cancelled. Mahinda Deshapriya silenced Ratnajeevan Hool.
The Supreme Court today rejected the fundamental rights applications filed challenging the appointment of Dhammika Perera to Parliament. The petition was rejected by a three-judge bench comprising Justices Priyantha Jayawardena, Yasantha Kodagoda and Arjuna Obesekera. President's Counsel Ramesh De Silva, appearing for Dhammika Perera, said that his client had already been appointed as a Member of Parliament. He pointed out that only the Speaker has the power to decide whether he is eligible to sit in Parliament or to cast his vote. His argument was that the judiciary could not intervene in the matter. The President's Counsel stated that the people first vote for the party and not for its candidates in an election, adding that the General Secretary of the party has a discretion to appoint a suitable person to fill a vacancy in the national list. After considering the facts, the court ordered to dismiss the 5 petitions without hearing them. Businessman Chandra Jayaratna, journalist Royal Raymond, the Centre for Policy Alternatives are among the parties that filed applications.
The Court of Appeal rejected a writ application filed by parliamentarian Johnston Fernando today, who was seeking an order to prevent his arrest. The Court of Appeal, while dismissing the application, said that no warrant had been issued by the Magistrates' Court to arrest the petitioner at the time the application was filed with the court. The Court of Appeal is of the view that the magistrate is the best person to assay the said speech made by the petitioner at Temple Trees to arrive at a decision as to whether the petitioner had committed an offence. The Court of Appeal dismissed the petition, stating that it could not conclude at this stage whether the respondents had met the minimum qualifications required to issue a notice on the petition. On the 9th of June 2022, the court has directed the petitioner to surrender before the learned magistrate of the 4th Magistrates Court before 8 p.m. on the same day, and the petitioner has surrendered, complying to the said order of this court. However, the petitioner surrendering to court on the 9th of June 2022 cannot be considered as a voluntary surrender, and the petitioner has surrendered in compliance to an order of the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal is of the view that the learned magistrate should make fresh orders according to law when the petitioner appears before the learned magistrate or when he is being brought before the magistrate in due course.
A group of people held a protest at the Independence Square in Colombo this evening. The protesters demanded the resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
The group chanted slogans, held placards and candles. Protesters pasted stickers on cars that are passing by as well.
Yeah, he should go. Definitely. Either he should go or we should chase him. Go home, Gota!
Thank you.
Thank you, Jaya.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We're going to win this game, don't we?
Aspirations, dreams, broken hearts, sorrowful smiles.
පේනවනේ මහත්තයා මේ බොන වතුර සේරම මඩ කොච්චර මේ කරත් මේවා බොන්න බෑ අපේ ළමයිට වකුගඩු අමාරු කේක ලෙඩ රෝග හැදෙනවනේ.
You have the power to preserve your happiness, building a future for tomorrow. Gammantha eliminates darkness from your lives.
Gammantha, for the people, by the people.
Incidents of shooting has awakened rising crime in the country. We've got details coming up on our Crime Watch segment tonight. Stay tuned to News First. We will be right back.
Eva, trusted confidence now has a fresh new feel. For the first time in Sri Lanka, Eva unveiled an antibacterial layer to minimize microbial growth and control odor, helping you stay fresher throughout the day. Now with maximum absorption. Available in cotton feel wings for maximum comfort and Drytex wings for maximum dryness. Eva, leading with confidence.
Welcome back. You're watching Primetime News on News First. Australia says its border protection policies have not changed. The Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill says if anyone comes by boat, they will be sent back.
Australia's border protection policies have not changed. If you try to come to Australia by boat, you will not make it. You will be intercepted, you will be sent back to Sri Lanka, and you will probably have lost thousands of dollars in the process and your fishing vessel, the livelihood of your family. Now, people smugglers will tell you lies, and I'm here to say very directly to you that Operation Sovereign Borders, the policy that underpins this, is being enforced fiercely, if not more fiercely than it was before. So there's no current change to our skilled migration program at the moment. If you want to come to Australia, you can only do so with a valid visa. The Minister and I have had some very fruitful discussions today about the future of fishing in Sri Lanka. So I've taken on board the offer of further partnerships that's been discussed with me.
The official launch of the Fisheries Vessel Monitoring System established under the Ministry of Fisheries was held today. Under the vessel monitoring system, the Australian government will provide VMS machines to more than 4,200 multi-day fishing trawlers.
Yes, we have a very big list to request the government of Australia to support us. So I hope our friend and the government of Australia may help us. Already they are helping us at different field. I hope they will.
Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwala says there is no decision to curtail the nutrition packs for pregnant mothers and newborn babies, although there is a short supply.
No, we are not going to curtail any. We are having a short supply of few areas. We are looking very seriously at those, and we don't want to have a malnutrition nation, So we are looking very seriously, and then I must say that one of the international organizations came out. But there was down the line, I think that was some incorrect information with regard to the malnutrition, and as a result, what has gone. I think we did a correction on that. So, as you tried to say, we are having all these challenges before us. They are not easy things to look at it, or rather brush aside. We are looking at all possible things to maintain what we did. And I must say that we have achieved, if you look at the indicators, we have done extremely well in the region with regard to nutrition, malnutrition, mothers pregnant, prenatal, postnatal, the pregnancy, pre-pregnancy, post-pregnancy, all that. I think we have done quite well comparatively, and all indicators are in favor, right? But at the moment, maybe one or two may be sliding slightly. We are very watchful about it. We are cautious about it. We will not let it slide.
However, recently the Unicef spokesperson to Sri Lanka has said the country is the 7th worst malnourished country for children in the world. Bismarck Swanjin was speaking at an interview with ABC News.
According to a recent Unicef assessment, 7 out of 10 families that we spoke to have informed us that they are cutting down on food. So if they were eating 3 times, they are down to 2 or 2 to 1. And in the quality of food that they are eating as well. Sri Lanka was, the 7th most malnourished country for children in the world and the 2nd in the region. And that's really how people are affected. There is nowhere to turn to.
Unicef data shows Sri Lanka as one place below India in the South Asian region for malnutrition in children below 5 years.
A fruit vendor was shot dead at the Manning Market in Palagoda. Up next is Crime Watch.
Crime Watch.
A 42-year-old man was gunned down near a fruit stall in the Manning Market in Palagoda. Police spokesperson SSP Halt said the gunman had arrived in a car to carry out the shooting. Newsfirst had received CCTV footage of the incident. The deceased has been identified as a fruit seller from Kotahena, Colombo 13, and he succumbed to injuries upon admission to the Colombo National Hospital. Police said that 2 T-56 assault rifle bullet casings were discovered at the crime scene.
Crime Watch.
In cricket news tonight, the 4th one-day international between Australia and Sri Lanka is being played at the Ranasinghe Premadasa Stadium in Colombo. Australia got off to a dream start in the field, claiming 3 wickets in the opening 10 overs. Dhananjaya De Silva and Charita Salanka notched a 100-run partnership before Mitch Marsh halted their momentum. Asalanka brought up his maiden 100 off in just 99 balls before falling for 110 in the 48th over. Sri Lanka were 258 all out in 49 overs. Now chasing 259 to win, Australia were 102 runs for the loss of 7 wickets a short while ago. Well, with that, we wrap up news for tonight. Details of these stories and much more always follow on our website, www.newsfirst.lk. Good night and take care.